So far we've been discussing the plagiarism policy in the course. In this literature course, you're going to need textual support in your responses in the discussion boards and response papers and on the midterm and final. So we're going to need the exact words of authors and poets, but we still have to make sure that we're citing it correctly. A quotable passage is one that's worded so effectively and so memorably that to paraphrase it or to reword it would somehow destroy it or change it. You're going to find sometimes that you need a poet or an author's exact words incorporated into your own responses. So if you include those exact words but you don't put both quotation marks in a citation, you're plagiarizing. So we're going to make sure that we always put exact words in quotation marks and provide a citation. This next page will show you how to do this and how to include signal phrases. So, to quote, you're going to think about what you're being asked to respond to, find quotable passages that match up with that, create signal phrases, include the quotes, and then include the citation. Here's an example. In Brief Lives in California, John LaRue describes Leonora as, in quotes, a floater, somebody who hadn't yet sunk to the bottom, but somebody who wouldn't get picked out of the pool unless a real Stanford freshman decided to go to Yale or somewhere. Here LaRue hints at the upcoming struggles Leonora will have in college, where she is an average student. This writer of this paper decided to include this quote. So the first time she mentions it, she uses the name of the story, she gives the full name of the author, the quote in quotation marks, and a citation. Then she makes a connection here between the quote and her own ideas by explaining how the quote connects to the ideas that she's currently writing about. You also may need to quote from poetry in this class because we'll be reading some poetry. Poetry is similar in that you provide the name of the poet with a signal phrase to say, and then you back it up by contextualizing it. The difference is that you're going to use line numbers instead of page numbers for the poetry. Sometimes a writer's exact words are not needed. Maybe I just want to give some information about the plot and I don't need the writer's exact words, but I still need to because I'm referring to someone else's ideas and to help someone who's reading a paper about a short story follow along. I need to make sure that I put the page numbers, or if it's a poem, the line numbers in there. To paraphrase, what you want to do is, without looking at a passage, try to write the ideas in your own words on a separate piece of paper. Compare what you've written to the passage and make sure you've now expressed the idea definitely in your own words. You won't need quotation marks if you've paraphrased, but you will need to add a citation. If you're really having trouble paraphrasing, you might consider going back and making it an exact quotation. So here's an example of paraphrasing. The original passage from Brief Lives in California by John LaRue reads this. The worst part about Stanford was that they made her take freshman English. She had been among the top 30 in high school, and now she was back to writing compositions. At first, she had just been a little nasty to the teacher in class to let him know how she felt about being there. But after she had written the first assigned paper, she decided to go see him and demand an explanation. So this is the paraphrase. And now this writer has decided she wants to include this plot information in her essay, but she's decided to put it in words because she doesn't see that she would change or destroy anything here through a paraphrase. At Stanford, Leonora is required to take a freshman composition class. Although she feels she does not need it, she's disrespectful in class and eventually goes to visit her professor, and has been given the author's name and the page number because she did not identify that in a signal phrase. You also have to add a works cited. That's going to work a little bit differently in this class. Everything that you do when you're referring to outside work, you're going to have to provide the page number for short fiction or the line number for poetry along with the author's name. You can do the author's name in a signal phrase or in the citation itself. Every discussion board, response paper, the midterm, and final in this course is going to require those in-text citations. We're not going to do a works cited when it comes to the discussion boards every week, because we'll all be writing about the same works. But for response papers, the final exam and midterm, you will need to do a works cited, and when we get to those assignments, the information will be provided in those assignments. If you'd like information about citations and you don't have a handbook that you can refer to, these two links are here. So if you go to the PDF version of this lesson that's linked to in the YouTube description on Blackboard, you can click on either of these two links to get some more assistance with citations.